By the grace of goodness, I am here at Office Hours, episode 693, the executive football talk segment of Office Hours. And I have the incredible former GM of the New York Jets, the ESPN super insider, analyst, and most importantly, a friend of mine who I was blessed to get to see in person on display at the Players Impact event with Ray Lewis and Marshall Falk and many other greats. Mike Tannenbaum, thanks for joining me.
Dave, as always, great to be with you, and seemed like your dance card was pretty full in New Orleans.
It always is. I will tell you, my takeaway was, and being part of SiriusXM and putting the playbook sports entertainment edition on SiriusXM, my takeaway over all the years at Radio Row was things have certainly changed when Call Her Daddy was the most popular show at the Super Bowl during Radio Row in the series. Nobody was looking at Rich Gannon, or I won't even mention other names because it's just going to hurt their feelings. But the reality is here that there's a new form of communication, content, and amplification, even in sports, and it has nothing to do with the ex-quarterbacks or ex-Hall of Famers anymore. Who knows whether it's Gary Vee or Call Her Daddy or David Portnoy. There's some new sheriffs in town, and it definitely has benefited people behind the scenes like you and I.
Yeah, I think we're in just, better than I do, this sort of content creation era. And Radio Row is sort of like, I think, emblematic of that, Dave. Like, it's just the whole industry is iterating on the fly.
Now, I'm going to ask you a favor, just because it worked out perfectly that our first guest rescheduled, which gave me this opening spot for you to come on. I was wondering if I could put you on the spot and bring on my two co-hosts to, number one, introduce them to you. But I would be curious what question they had. So this is my mentor, the incredible Blaine Bartlett, who I think you've met before. Blaine's one of the world's best business advisors and coaches, and an advisor with Bob Proctor, and has helped me so much. And then this is the CEO of Napoleon Hill Institute, our corporate division, my business partner as well, Rhett Power.
Hey, Mike.
Gentlemen, how are you? Good to be with you.
All right, boys. You get an opportunity to save my ass and to ask Mike something interesting for once, instead of me having to torture him with lead-in questions that may or may not be that interesting. Blaine, I was curious, what would you like to ask Mike?
Well, you were talking about the change in the topography of literally in the world, content creation and everything that kind of goes around with that. And I look at social media, through the lens of social media. Taylor Swift is an example of this in terms. She's brought, I think the last number I saw was about $1 billion to the NFL. And tangentially, how does all of this fit into the worldview that you see emerging, Mike?
Yeah, Blaine, that's a great question. I think it's, again, going to continue to evolve, but I think entertainers and athletes now want to create more of their own content. They want to have tell their own narrative, and I think there's that sort of like confluence of the traditional ESPNs of the world that I'm privileged to be with, sort of like what you call like old media, and then the new media of my own podcast, my own whatever, Twitter, Instagram, spaces and threads and everything else. So I think whatever the median is, I think the Taylor Swift generation and the new athlete generation, they want to tell their own story. And I think there's some sort of merging of old and new.
Yeah. Blaine, I'm going to go along the same lines. Kendrick Lamar's performance the other night was iconic, right? I think it had the most views of any halftime show, maybe since Michael Jackson, or it might have had it most of all time. What'd you think? Was it?
So I was covering the game for ESPN International. So we had a pregame show and a halftime show. I watched the halftime show from the purview of the Superdome, which was great. I wanted to watch it a couple times. So I know there was a lot of symbolism to it. And, I know obviously there's a lot with his rivalry with Drake and how Serena Williams may or may not been a factor in all that.
Right.
So probably a lot to digest there. But obviously an immensely talented entertainer.
Yeah, is that the NFL? I mean, the NFL knows its audience, right? I mean, it seems like it was an interesting choice.
Well, I think, I don't know this, but if I had to guess, I think they want to, for the Super Bowl, Rhett, have a really big tent. You're going to have, diehards like Dave, myself, that are going to watch, a Pop Warner game, a game in the parking lot. But you're bringing in, a lot of additional eyeballs relative to the Super Bowl. And I think someone like a Kendrick Lamar is, talking to that audience. So I think it's very strategic of the NFL.
Well, in my, with my experience and blessed to be part of NFL teams, organizations, and leagues, it's taken a while, but the NBA was the first to realize it. And I think the NFL right behind them, not only with the international aspect, which you and I are also participating in to amplify sports, specifically the insider of the NFL into an international scene, completely growing. We see the future. But one of the things that started for me with Janet Jackson was the understanding of the post-production content that, whether we see Mike Tannenbaum or not live when he's actually being amplified on ESPN, on his shows, what plays more and better and has more value is the post-production, the people that take a clip and repurpose the clip and create comments and captions and parodies and, all the different types of things that occur it dwarfs the billions of people that watch the game. It dwarfs the billions of people that watch the halftime show. When you look at the repurposing of post-production content, it could actually get into the trillions of views because people can watch it more than once. They share it and exponentially amplify it. And, I think that the NFL may play the innocent platform when certain subtleties or symbolisms are utilized, or a flashing of a boob even. But I tend to think that, these people are a lot more savvy and understand where the real amplification and content goes. And to do stuff like that at halftime, to me, just shows that they really get it now. And when I see Call Her Daddy and I see the subtleties and symbolism of an extraordinary talent, it just says to me, wow, these guys are really getting it. And I'm not sure some other leagues and organizations get post-production content and they do. Do you think they are aware of that when they're doing these types of things and highlighting certain things that in the past they kind of washed their hands of and said, oh my goodness, you had no idea?
Yeah, I think they're pretty smart, pretty calculated. Again, I think, when you're talking about a Super Bowl, Dave, or like you said, the post-production content, I think they know that, from fantasy, obviously the amount of engagement they've gotten through gambling has been well documented. I think the entertainer is filling a void that maybe isn't checking one of the boxes with some of those other sort of activities. So I think there's a lot of strategy and thought on how they could fill out that whole, no pun intended, dance card.
I love that. Well, real quickly, I know you got to go and we're moving on, but the attendance or the momentum, do you think it was a little bit down as far as the attendance in the city comparatively because of New Orleans and the teams playing? Or do you think we're going to see a trend of less momentum in a city when you have these big events?
Well, I think part of it was Kansas City was going for a three-peat. So to the extent there's Super Bowl fatigue, I think part of you were there, Dave, there were a lot more Eagle fans.
If the Lions were there, I think it would have been a different scene, right?
Yeah, or Detroit against Buffalo, something like that.
Yeah.
Fandoms that were just totally starved. So I think that may have been a factor as well.
Let's not forget the Seahawks there, guys.
Yeah, well, that was amazing. I will tell you, the leagues have gotten smarter because the face values of the tickets have left little room for the secondary market, which I was also wondering when the leagues would catch on to elevating their face value of their ticket prices as well. The incredible Mike Tannenbaum, always showing up. And you wouldn't believe how much it means to me, Mike, and the friendship that we have, that you would take your time to use your humility and insight to help us out with our shows. People love you, and I know why. You're one of the most insightful, but also gracious people that I know, and I really appreciate our friendship. And thanks for showing up, and we'll have you next week.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care. Appreciate it.
Have a good night, Mike.
Care, Mike.
You're on TV. Thanks. Oh, how blessed am I to have that guy in my circle. He's like you two, just amazing people. Although his insight on football is far greater. He's forgotten more about football than you, me, and Rhett will ever know. That's how much of a student he is of the game, and that's why he's in the position he is. But we got other stars to talk to, and Alistair is here. Alistair Gordon from Down Under, CEO of expertunity, probably a better way to say it.
Yep.
And there are multiple topics with subject matter experts out there. Alistair, welcome to Office Hours.
Thank you so much for the invite, David. I've really been enjoying listening to your amazing podcast. And even that interview there, the Super Bowl is, NFL is not big in Australia, but the Super Bowl is huge. Exactly what you were saying. Everyone was watching it. They were in the pubs, everything. So everything you were saying there was just totally on track for us.
Well, we certainly are relying on you for some other expertise, as both Rhett, Blaine, and myself, we all work with professionals across the world, and you work with multiple countries as well. And to be a subject matter expert or a topic expert today is a huge benefit, for the same reason I talked to Mike about this post-production content. But not all experts today are utilizing their skill set in the appropriate way. And you've been giving free assessment tools for a lot of the SMEs around the world, and career and skill development in order to facilitate greater options, opportunities, and touches of favor, which you've cleverly named expertunity. And so I want to start with that. What are the new, we've all been around the block, but what are the new opportunities of being an expert?
Yeah, well, I think I feel like the moment of a subject matter expert arrived during COVID, David, where if you thought about the number of times you heard on news channels or politicians talking or whatever, the word expert, up until 2019, you didn't hear it all that often. But wow, from 2019 to 2021, it was expert this, expert that. And obviously, we also discovered there were many expert opinions, many of which were at complete, loggerheads with one another. But the reality is that, if you think of most large organizations that we've worked with, or medium-sized organizations, there's a huge focus on the people leaders and, this cult of, CEO and so on. But the people who do the real work, and very often the people who keep the lights on, very often the people who innovate and what have you, are the technical subject matter experts. My background was leadership development, and I was one of 50 billion leadership development consultants in the world, and anyone can put up a sign saying that. But then we discovered that there's this sort of huge group, maybe 50, 60 million in the world, of really, really technical subject matter experts, and organizations just were not leveraging their potential at all. In fact, they're a forgotten group in many instances. And without wishing to be super critical of the HR teams in those organizations, the HR teams are told to focus. Their mandate is develop leaders, develop emerging leaders, and they've not focused on the people who can add enormous value to the organization's subject matter experts. So that's been our focus, and the research suggests that we've done that there is such a big opportunity to unleash their potential, but they're super technical, and we want to add some additional skills to them. We call them enterprise skills. We want to add some additional skills to them, skills that, by the way, David, they don't think they need.
Right.
They don't want any of this tree-hugging emotional intelligence rubbish, right? They want to get back to writing code or designing bridges or, designing a new health process or what have you. But obviously, I would think the four of us on this call right now know that the experts that we've met have brilliant technical skills and brilliant enterprise skills. And it's the combination of those two things that make them gurus.
And what comes into play there? I mean, one of the ways that, we tend to describe the subject matter experts that you're speaking of is, in an organization, they're the personal performers. Yes. And they get boxed, he or she's a personal performer, and we'll just let them go do their thing. Yeah. And there's a story that gets developed around both the, and it's almost used as a pejorative in one sense here.
Yes.
A story that gets used around that whole personal performer that they have difficulty breaking out of when the penny drops and they kind of go, there's more out here than, literally the expertunity. I'm an expert. I could actually leverage this in a completely different ways. You have a free assessment tool for SMEs that begin to open the door a little bit to them understanding just kind of what levers can they pull. And I'll put it in the context of how do I brand myself differently? How do you actually work with these folks to actually get them repositioned?
Yes, look, it's a great question. And, the way we describe it is they're working in their technical bubble. And, Blaine, they're pretty comfortable in their technical bubble, if truth be told. That's where they, they know things, they're sure about themselves and so on and so forth. And then, but they get very frustrated. So where we start is, we ask them, to what extent do you think, senior people in this organization understand the value that, you create? And they tend to roll their eyes, as you can imagine, and laugh and go, the senior leaders have got no clue what I do. They've got no clue. If I were to leave for holiday for a month, the whole organization would fall apart, rah, rah, rah. So I think that they're very comfortable in their zone, but they're very frustrated that they can't add this extra value. So we explore with them what's getting in the way. And we did a survey a couple of years ago where we asked a lot of experts around the world, could you add more value to your organization if you were given the opportunity? And 87% of them said absolutely. They strongly agreed with that statement. And of course, the second question we asked them was, what's getting in the way? And it's going to be a shock to the three of you to know that they said management gets in the way. So who knew?
Clutching time.
Yeah. So, and when we're working with them individually in the programs and what have you, we ask the same questions when they say, so management's getting in the way. And bearing in mind, a lot of these people are technical experts, so they're very scientific, they're very evidence-based and so on. You'd be very familiar with them. And most of your listeners, David, will know one or two or three subject matter experts, and I'll let them, channel what you know about those people. So we say, okay, so let's be clear about this then, right? So the reason you can't add more value is 100% management's fault and 0% your fault. Have we got that right? And of course, they can't handle that sort of 100 to 0 because they statistically know it's just very unlikely. So we have to get them to begin to think about how do they interact with generalists, people who are not expert. There's an expectation from the experts that generalists should know what I do and how I do it, and that's an unreasonable thing. The CEO doesn't know what the person who runs the email system in their organization does or how they do it. So we gradually work through, getting them to think about how do they interface with other parts of the business. To what extent do they understand the organization and its customers and what their needs are? And instead of them being head down, fixing problems all the time, we're asking them to put their head above the parapet and think about what is the organization going to ask for us in 18 months' time? How would we know? What would we know? How would we find out the answer of that? So we get them to begin to break out of their technical bubble and to see the value of understanding where the organization is heading, and then being able to plan to add great value before even the organization asks for it. And this is super motivating for them. This is what they want to do. They want to be the very best expert they possibly can be.
So, Alistair, a quick question. I've been on the tech conference circuit for a while now, and the last couple, I was in Davos a couple weeks ago, and then at another conference last week in Dubai, and the AI is the obviously the topic of the day, right? And
Yeah.
one of the things that on a couple panels that I participated in, the big question is, how do you, as an expert in a company, how do you upskill so that you maintain your edge, you maintain your expert status, but things are going to change dramatically, right? We're in this sort of seminal moment in time where, like, work is going to change and work is going to shift massively in the way we think about it. So what skills, from your perspective, I wish that I had you on one of those panels, because I'd love to know, what are the skills in the AI world that we're getting ready to really have to live through and adapt to? What are those skills?
Yes, it's a great question, and obviously AI is on everybody's lips, right? I don't know if I'm sure you have noticed the number of companies that have changed their names to have AI involved in them and what have you, in order to 10x their valuations. So we actually work with quite a few tech group. I mean, I would say about 40% of the experts we work with are out of tech, Brett, and I've just been working. I've had the privilege of working with a lot of AI people, specialists, but in New York and in Singapore and here in Sydney, and it's really interesting because they're working on the large language models and how you can leverage them, and they're working on how to deploy the technology. But the real value that those experts will add in the future is working out what the applications of that will be, and they can't get to where the really cool applications are going to be without understanding how users or customers or what have you in the organizations use things and what they'd like to be able to do. Quite a few experts, by the way, that I'm talking to are seriously, coders, for example, are seriously concerned that a lot of their skills are just going to be replicated by AI, and indeed. My developer here is getting faster and faster at building my systems because he uses ChatGPT to write it for him, half the time. So, maybe 90% of it, and then the rest of it is done. So I think everything around building those enterprise skills on top of those technical skills is going to be the secret. Where professionals have to develop their skills is in those human capabilities that AI is not going to be able to sensibly replicate or accurately replicate. They need to be thinking about, how do we come up with new ideas and join several different dots from different areas of expertise. That's a human capability, that creativity, that I don't think in the short term AI is going to be able to replicate. Maybe in the long term it will. So I think this concept of almost making sure that your technical expertise is not going to be good enough anymore for you to really have a great career and make the difference that you have. It's time you've got to get out of your technical bubble and bring a much broader view of the value you're trying to create and deliver to the table.
And Alistair, I think you bring up a great point about AI or any other technology. I'm old enough, and maybe you are as well, when everybody was sticking .com on their business. Now it's .ai. But AI makes humans, as I would say all technology has made humans more human, which only stands to reason that it would make experts better experts. And that provides more opportunity as well. And so just as a reminder, and yes, we need to get you on more panels and more stages and over here to help us understand what it is to be an expert today, by looking backwards and giving a meaning to our past, to elevate our own self-image as experts today and increase our imagination as well. Alistair Gordon, helping experts with opportunity, creating expertunity. Go to expertunity.global and learn more about all the different things that we can do, the options, the opportunities, touches of favor for your own subject matter topic experts out there. We'll have you back, my friend. You are an all-star, Alistair. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for the invite, David. Thanks, gents.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. That's 2 for 2. We're dealing with some of the biggest and best in the world, and we're just going to follow that. She's a Forbes book author, and Rhett is obviously a Forbes man himself. So Pattie Dale Ty is here, and we are blessed to have her with a very bright background. And fair enough, she's ordinary to extraordinary speaker, author, board member, an amazing entrepreneur, and wrote the book on extraordinary, ordinary to extraordinary, achieving remarkable career success through passion, purpose, and preparation. Welcome to Office Hours, Pattie.
Thank you, David, so much. And I too have enjoyed the last couple of conversations, and it makes me feel good that my background is pink.
It makes me feel good as well. I know your name's Pattie, and I know that we talked in your book about passion, purpose, and preparation, but I'm really curious if you've written the book on extraordinary about another P and how what comes to mind for me, Pattie, because I love alliteration, passion, purpose, and preparation. You know, those 3 things only lead to one thing in my book, which is profit. And
Absolutely.
so I wondered, in the differentiator between an ordinary business person and an extraordinary business person, where does profit play into the 3 Ps?
Well, and profit can come from things other than money, can't it, David?
Yes,
You know
it
that
does.
very well.
These 2
So,
experts next to me have taught me that lesson. It cost me $100 million to learn that lesson, but yes,
well,
I did
but
learn it. I learned
but
it.
so profit comes to me in the form of money or joy in life, peace in life, legacy in life. All of that can be profit. I happen to be born and raised in a business environment, so I do respect the profit that comes to shareholders in the form of money, and that's the intelligence that went into the book. It is from a
When you say you were
background.
born in a business office, you were actually delivered on a desk?
No, office environment.
Oh,
My
gotcha.
father was a business guy. So, but I came up in corporate, AT&T, Humana, et cetera. Now I am a COO in a law firm, and wait until we have to write the big check that will profit Westlaw with all that AI they're tossing out to us now. I did my homework.
Thank you for my legacy. That's
You
awesome.
bet. You bet.
Blaine.
See what part of that check you end up getting, David.
There you go.
About as much as the Jerry Maguire money that I get.
Oh,
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. In your book, Pattie, you basically you target 3 niches. Those entering
yes.
the workforce after some time away, people just starting out. But the one that I've been interested in is those entering the 3rd stage of their career. How do you define that 3rd stage?
I think it is I think of it as you have gone into the work world and you've done well, and then you have sort of maxed out what you want to do in that traditional 40-hour, 60-hour week. And your 3rd stage, I also think of as kind of a portfolio career. It's where you're not doing the one thing. I'm in my portfolio career. I'm in my 3rd stage. I'm an author, a speaker, but I also am a chief operating officer at a law firm. So I get to pull on all those energies. And the 3rd stage, to me, is the best stage, but I haven't forgotten what it felt like to be in those other 2 stages. So I wanted to sort of weave my hands together and say, step here, I've been there, I can help.
Great.
You know, I went to lunch the other day with a friend, and you know, he I don't know if it's the 2nd phase or the 3rd phase, but you know, he's getting ready to transition out of corporate. You know, and he's my age, he's mid-50s, and is this a book for them?
Oh,
For
yeah.
someone like him that is struggling with what's next, trying to think about what that next phase is and what that next act is and how to reinvent yourself. Would that book help him?
Absolutely, because it takes all of us need to remember what we're good at. It starts with aptitudes. You know, I don't know if you all have had your aptitudes tested. They cap out at about 19, and then they turn into skills and passion and ultimately purpose. But that person that is about to jump off of the place where he has had identity for probably 30 years.
And
It's-
comfort.
and comfort and friends. He's a little nervous, and a paycheck, by the way. He's a little nervous.
Massive nervous, yeah.
So he's got to go back and rebuild his confidence that is apart from that corporate logo, because he doesn't have to give any of that back when he walks out. His 30 years will go right with him, and he's got to remember what that is. So I tell people, get out a journal and start writing all the things that felt good to you in work, and then try to replicate that in the next chapter of life, because there's a world of need out there, especially for somebody with that much experience.
Yeah, so true. And Pattie, I know we have so many other platforms, TV shows, live events, stages for you to get on, because we need more of your insight, because being extraordinary and living in the empty mile. I know Jeff's waiting in the green room, but I have to ask a question about another P, because we're so blessed to have you on our platform. Whether you're young or more experienced, I have found that one of the challenges when we're talking about these skills, knowledge, and desires is a P called patience. No matter what age we are, the exponentiality of success, noting that our skills and our knowledge of who and what give us a higher basement the more developed they are. But as you stated in your book, it's the delta, the desire, that determines your potential. But that is also inhibited by patience. And no matter how skilled you are, if you don't put the consistent, persistent pursuit into that skill, knowledge with that desire, the profitability will still not come if you don't have the patience to allow your preparation and all of our P's to align into that purposeful, profitable, passionate world. What's your number one tip for patience?
Well, I think in what you just described, David, it is saying you've got to play the long game. This is a 40-year journey. It's not, it's a long one, and it's one of the most important and impactful ones of your life. For me, it's right up there with health, faith, family. It undergirds it all. And people
sleep.
they're treating it as a gig, a bit of a gig, and it's not. It's the long game. But the other thing is, these same people that won't have that don't have the patience to wait it out are also the ones that are so impatient with the rest of their life. And that just, we've become an impatient society for everything. It needs to be instant. You just have to play the long game. And it's 40 years.
Yeah. I tell my kids right now, and one of them works with me, my 25-year-old. I still tell her, and I'm probably the second oldest one here. I'm still playing a 40-year game. I have 40 more years. I'm 57 years old, and I know, maybe by 100 I'll be capped out in the passion department and get into a position of ease, meditative experience. But right now, I'm on a very long. I started with a 20-year plan, and that did me really well. But I was only 24. I have a 40-year plan at 57. So I
awesome.
really think it's difficult for people to see, but when you live in the realm of doing your best, learning lessons, and having fun, 40 years is absolutely a period of time that we can stay persistent with. Another P. Pattie Dale, get her on your stages, read her book. Let's get her on more of our platforms, gentlemen. It's always great to see somebody who has walked the walk and now talks the talk. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be reaching out with more invitations, not obligations.
Thank you, David. And thank you, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Keep making Westlaw money. We appreciate it.
We'll do it. Thank you.
It's not hard. Nothing like an American monopoly. There we go. Anyways, we owe this man a great amount of gratitude for his patience. The founder and CEO of Intellectual Strategies, Jeff Holman, is joining us on Office Hours. Oh, unmute yourself. There we go.
There we go. Like a novice here. It's fantastic to be here.
I would, just to make you feel better, I probably do more interviews than any other human being, maybe on Earth, on Zoom or StreamYard or whatever. And I still am amazed. I jump on with it muted. It's like,
Oh, no worries. I have no pride about it.
me neither. Anyway, you have quite an academic background, Jeff. Electrical engineering, law, and MBA. And I'm very respectful myself as an academic because I have a overbearing Jewish mother of academics, which led her to believe that the fetus wasn't fully developed till after graduate school. And I just was told on Monday that I would receive my first honorary doctorate, and that'll be May 1st. And I never will put doctor in front of my name, but to have an honorary acknowledgement of, something that takes so much hard work is something I'm proud of. And my mom, she'll be the only one that calls me Dr. Meltzer. I'm positive of that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. How today, though, when we talk about skills and knowledge, you're the founder and CEO of Intellectual Strategies. How important is academics today in a realm where there's multiple ways to increase our intelligence, our intuition, and our inspiration, and to be strategic, intelligent people? How important is traditional academics?
Boy, that's not a question I was expecting, but it's a fantastic question. With 4 kids, one who's doing a PhD program right now.
Tell them it's much easier to get an honorary one.
I'll let her know that. Maybe she's on that track too. I don't know.
She is. Trust me. If I can do it, anybody can. That's my motto.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I've got other kids I've got a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old still at home with me, and I look at them and I'm like, I'm not sure if traditional academics are always the right path, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a lot of paths to success. The real key in my mind is being action oriented, and if that's in school and academics, awesome. If that's not in school and academics, but it's in some other field where you can thrive and you can, referring back to what Pattie was doing, you follow your passions in a productive and profitable way. I think that's a great plan too.
Most people that start businesses have got some modicum of intelligence. I'll just kind of put that in
or bravery.
Yeah, either or. But early on, and I'll just I've started a couple of different businesses, and never in the gestation period did I think that I needed some access to legal advice, because it was pretty cut and dried. I mean, I do this, I do that. This is not rocket science. I can just set the thing up and away we go. Intellectual strategies, you're really reshaping how this resource is actually brought to people that and organizations that are in the embryonic stage, and then they're probably over the revenue hump to a degree here. What's the distinction that you're bringing that allows, and it's fractionalized legal service, but how are you actually positioning this?
Yeah, it's a great question. We, in the legal field, you always hear about access to justice, and it's usually in terms of, the deprived and the lower, economic classes having access to their justice. I think business owners need access to justice in the same way. And when you're a small founder, a startup, you oftentimes don't know you need that. And even when you know you need that, you don't have access to it. It's expensive. And so what we're doing really is bringing kind of that in-house legal team, that kind of distant, what would be the distant wing of the large corporate building. We're bringing that into an accessible model for business owners, so that our clients come to us and they say, I want to poke my head in your door for a minute and ask you a quick question. Great. Let's have those quick conversations, keep you on the right path as you're going, instead of saving up, avoiding calls, and then waiting till there's a legal explosion in your business.
Yeah. Well, I wish you'd been around like 15 or 16 years ago. But hey, here we are. Talk about the model a little bit and sort of the ideal client. I mean, I think everybody should have legal advice, even when you start a business. I mean, to set it up properly, right? Because it's a real headache to go back and have to fix stuff. But talk about who you like, or like who you serve the best, like what's the ideal client, and what's the structure? Is it a like a monthly fee? How does it work?
Yeah, it's a monthly fee. We basically scale with the businesses. So sometimes they need access to real contract stuff or investment stuff or patents or trademarks or whatever it might be. Our team has all that expertise. So we've designed that very deliberately. And they might need a little bit of it one month. They might need a lot more of it another month, or a different discipline the next month. So it's a monthly fee, and people kind of access us at the rate that they need to. As they grow, we can grow with them, because we're 5 or 6 attorneys strong, as opposed to one person who bottlenecks. And that's one of the real major differences is we've tried to eliminate the bottlenecking, both in terms of getting clients to talk to us and call us, because I don't know a profession that does a better job at obstructing clients from hiring them than the legal profession does.
Yes.
For whatever reason. So we really want to remove that bottleneck, but we also want to have the ability to just have casual conversations, quick conversations that help our clients act more like second-time founders, right? I look at first-time founders and I'm like, they don't know what they don't know. Second-time founders, they've been there, they've made some mistakes, they've put some advisors around them, and now they can really lean into what they need to do, and they know where some of those blind spots are around the corners.
Yeah.
And just to finish up with an extra question, the free strategy call. I'm always interested when you have such a real well-rounded background. How long does it take for you to listen to someone and be able to articulate a quantitative value of what you're able to provide to exceed that monthly subscription? Because I understand, like, tort lawyers, why you would want a free consultation. It's the percentage of time you can articulate a quantitative value is so high. I'm just curious, there's a lot of variance in who might take your calls. How do you take the time to figure out if you can be of value, and then to be able to articulate that value to exceed what you're asking for?
Yeah, it doesn't take that long. We do some screening up front, right? We don't take criminal cases and things like that. It's all business related, and it's mostly innovator focused. So a lot of people are building a brand, building patents and trademarks and inventions. So innovator focused businesses will call us, and as soon as we talk about their milestones coming up, their business milestones, it's pretty easy to then kind of tack on the legal milestones or the legal tasks that need to be involved. And, I had a call this morning with one client, and in about 15 minutes, I said, okay, I know exactly where you're going. I know what product you're making. I know what you're talking about with your manufacturing, when you're going to launch that, when you're going to the toy fair. And I can see that because I've talked to so many people. So 15 to 30 minutes, we really can map out a good roadmap for clients to say, here are the corners to look around if you're not already aware of them.
You said toy fair, and
I heard that, Rhett.
Yeah, Rhett's ears perked up. He could have used you, like he said years ago. You nailed it on the head. Jeff Holman, if you're looking for some strategy to allow yourself to save time, money, emotion, and value, find someone who is an expert, someone who sits in a situation you want to be, especially when it comes to IP. There's some great dummy tax that you can save. There's great ROI in talking to an expert. There is expertunity in every facet of what we talk about here on Office Hours, and we're blessed to have one of those people here with us today, Jeff Holman. Check out Jeff Holman on LinkedIn. Check out intellectualstrategies.com/strategy-call-start-here. If you want to get a strategy call, 15-20 minutes may save your business or accelerate it in an exponential way. Jeff Holman, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff.
Amazing. Talk about experts today. We were from Mike Tannenbaum down at the top of their field. It's an amazing journey that I take with you two gentlemen. It's tough to be 3 white middle-aged men and pull this off without people hating or canceling us, but we seem to do it every single week. We're pretty soon we're going to be the ones that are like, hey, have you ever seen that show? It's so rare. They got 3 middle-aged white guys on there. And really, I haven't seen a show like that for 20 years because nobody's brave enough to do it. You're damn right we are. Anyway, my favorite part of the show is what we take away or learn from the show. Blaine Bartlett, what's your takeaway of the day?
Value add. I'm going to just value add. Whether it's Mike talking about and you actually in the conversation with Mike, content, just repackaging. I mean, the show's one thing, but then how do you repackage sound bites? All of this with Alistair, moving from just being a personal performer. What's the value add? How can I actually leverage this? Pattie's the same sort of a conversation in terms of there's something else. I mean, I 40-year career. How do I take it all together? And now I start, connecting dots in ways that I've never thought of before, but it brings something brand new to the table. And, the idea here of fractionalizing loss so that I don't have to pay an upfront retainer of $20,000 when I'm starting out. And as a consequence of not having to pay that, now I get some advice that can save me $150,000 on the backside. So value add.
Rhett, sorry about that.
Hey, I mean, we've all paid the dummy tax, as you say,
Yeah.
So
yeah, some of us like me are just dumber, so I paid more.
It's a scale, right?
Yeah.
I think what's interesting to me, what I sort of pulled out of today was that all three of those guests, and Mike included, they're relevant conversations and they're doing things that people need today, right? I think people are struggling, with Pattie and Alistair. I think people are struggling to figure out what and how to survive in this new world that we're really moving into rapidly. And I think they have that special talent to help people through that. And then I just love this. I love this idea of fractional legal help. I mean, I think that might have been one of the best things I've heard in a long time. I mean, because it's essential today. I mean, there's so many minefields, right? And
yeah,
and
especially in certain expertise where it's very, very templated or systematic, and it's not criminal law, for example,
right,
where there's subjective variables and outcome that's hard. So I think that's essential. My takeaways in line with the Super Bowl in New Orleans, where I was blessed to go to law school and do every year, spend time, especially with Tulane University. It's a word that I learned while I was in law school called lagniappe. It's a Creole word, a French Creole word, which means a little bit something extra. And I thought it was apropos today that my takeaway would be lagniappe, because I thought that not only did our guests bring a little bit something extra, but their expertise in their businesses provided a little bit something extraordinary, extra value, like Blaine said, that value add. So lagniappe was my takeaway of the day with all four of our extraordinary Lagnappian guests. They were a little bit something extra. And that's also inclusive of my two hosts that come here every week to provide and pour into our community. You guys are a little bit of lagniappe as well, and I'm blessed to have you in my life. I got some Lagnappian love for both of you. Let's all take some vitamin L tonight, a little bit of vitamin love. Let me send it to you and your families for gracing us and allowing us to have you share your wisdom and your inspiration with all of us every week. I appreciate Blaine Bartlett, at Blaine Bartlett, Possibilities into Reality, one of the world's greatest coaches, mentors, and teachers that I know, and my business partner and Stewart, co-pilot in the Napoleon Hill Institute with Forbes and many other things, the Accountability Inc. The list goes on and on for my two partners. Rhett Power, check him out, Rhett at rhettpower.com. I will see you guys soon. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, buddy.
Great takeaway, great guests, and of course, great hosts. I want to thank all of them. We're going to be in San Francisco, Chicago, and SoFi Stadium. It's that simple. San Francisco, Chicago, SoFi Stadium. Join us. Meetups, holding court, VIP dinners, speeches, whatever you need. We're here for you. David at dmeltzer.com. If you want to be invited to everything we're doing, over 200 cities all year long, go ahead, text me for those invitations, not obligations. 949-298-2905. The caveat is, if you don't like getting invited, if you're offended when you get invited, if you feel guilty and resentful being invited, do not text. do not text me, because you will be offended or obligated or guilty or resentful. And I'm tired of people telling me how offended they are for being invited so often to so many cool shit with cool people. So I'm just putting a caveat on my text community. If you don't like to be invited, don't join. If you do want to be a part of a community, a neighborhood of people that want to help each other and know people that can help each other, text me all you want. 949-298-2905. Email me. We have thousands of people in a private networking group. We are bringing deals. We are giving advice. Billionaires, millionaires, entrepreneurs, celebrities, athletes, and entertainers are all members of our private networking group. Email me to join. Once again, david@dmeltzer.com. But most importantly, as you can see today, be kind to your future self and do good deeds. We'll see you tomorrow. Friday trainings at 6 a.m. Pacific. Thank you.